How many of you remember a little show on Cartoon Network called Mad? If you don't remember, don't worry, it basically got overshadowed by everything else that was airing at the time. Mad was a TV show based on the magazine and adult TV show of the same name. There's a chance you may have seen this face before. If so, Mad is where that came from. It was basically the kids' version of Robot Chicken, as it was a show that parodied popular media and celebrities at the time, often putting them together to make funny skits.
See, Mater? It's good to travel the world.
The show ran from 2010 to 2013 and only had 4 seasons, and parodied many cartoons whether they were from Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, or the Disney Channel. However, as the dumb child I was, I wanted to see if Sonic would ever appear in the series. And of course, he did. A number of times, in fact. And that's what I'll be talking about today. I'll be recounting every appearance of Sonic the Hedgehog in Cartoon Network's Mad. Let's get started. We'll start with the very first Sonic reference in the show, even though it doesn't feature Sonic himself. It occurred in the show's 16th episode, in a segment called Gaming's Next Top Princess, which is a parody of America's Next Top Model, or Hooker depending on where you're watching. The contest featured many different female video game characters competing for the top spot. It featured notable characters such as Samus, Princess Peach, Princess Zelda, Misty, and our main subject, Amy Rose. As with many properties featured on Mad, the designs of the characters were heavily altered in order to avoid copyright. Amy was no exception. Or was she? Now obviously when Amy was shown up close, her design was changed for copyright purposes. And while I think the design looked neat, something very strange happens in the next scene. At the very start of the next scene, for not even a second, you can see a render of Amy disappear that looks like it was ripped straight from Sonic Adventure. I have no idea how that got into the final broadcast. My guess is that nobody at CN really noticed it because of how fast it disappeared. It's literally a blink and you miss it appearance. No doubt a very strange choice from whoever was working on this episode. On to the next entry. The first appearance of Sonic himself came in the form of a fake ad during the 23rd episode of Season 1. This commercial is advertising Sonic the Hedgehog brand sneakers, which is still not a real commercial for some reason. These sneakers allow anyone who wears them to be able to run incredibly fast and turn anything you jump on into rings, and apparently your legs don't stop spinning.
Hey kids, are you tired of your boring, slow life?
I beg your pardon? I beg your pardon?
We do see Sonic himself in this ad as he runs through a pretty standard looking zone, collecting rings and destroying badniks. Now of course, as I mentioned earlier, the designs had to be altered in order to dodge copyright issues. So how did they do? Well, I'd say he looks pretty decent for what it's worth. He's got red gloves on, he seems pretty happy. He's missing the tan fur on his chest though. I honestly think this design was pretty good for a parody. Not much else to say here. On to the next entry. I'll keep this one short and simple as there isn't much to say here. In the segment titled The Iron Giant Lady from the first episode of Season 3, there was one Sonic character who made a quick cameo. The segment itself wasn't really anything to write home about, at least until one scene occurs. We see a picture of the Chuck Norris Invitational, where we also see, well, Chuck Norris, being kicked in the face by none other than Bunny Rabbit herself. Such a random choice of character to put in the scene, and I don't hate it at all. This means Bunny's last final televised appearance wasn't even in a Sonic cartoon, it was on Mad. That is very interesting. Now for the one that most people remember. Franklin and Crash was a segment from the second episode of Season 3, which parodies Franklin and Bash, and of course, Crash Bandicoot, as the unlikely duo serve justice in video game court. Everything seems to be going fine for them, until the lawyer is revealed, who turns out to be...
Well, hello, Crash. Having fun running through levels, spinning through boxes? I love your sneakers and gloves. I added shorts.
Sonic, no ears and all, is the lawyer for this trial, and he reiterates what most people thought of Crash Bandicoot in the late 90s. He looks to expose the Prince of all Cosmos once and for all. I should also mention that there's a couple other cameos in this segment, like Garfield, Mario, Bowser, and Peach. This is by far the strangest design for Sonic I've seen on this show. I've seen them reuse designs for certain characters more than once, so I'm not sure why they didn't do that with Sonic. I really did find his role in this episode to be funny just for how out of place it is. He really did have it out for the prince. On to the next entry. Here's another small cameo from another fake ad. The ad is for a service called Koopa Troopa Gutsman and Krakow, which is basically just trying to sell you cheats, or ROM hacks if you will, basically making the game impossible to beat for the player. Sonic and Dr. Robotnik both appear in this ad, of course along with a few other video game characters. Here we can see that this level has been altered with an enormous line of spikes.
Oh boy.
They predicted Sonic Unfair. As for the design, Sonic actually looks somewhat normal, just with different colors. I'm willing to bet that this is someone's OC on DeviantArt too. Or it might just be this guy. Robotnik has a different outfit on, yet the Eggmobile itself just looks normal. Not much else here, just another fun cameo. On to the final entry. This might just be the most well-known segment that Mad produced, and it appeared in the 11th episode of Season 3. This is Diary of a Wimpy Kid Icarus, a parody of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid franchise and Kid Icarus. If you've seen or read any of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid media that didn't come from Reddit, you probably already know what this parody is about. It's his first day at a new video game school, and Pit has to try and fit in with everyone else. Except Pit isn't as unlikable as Greg Heffley. Kirby is in here too, and he's basically Rowley because, you know.
Alright.
He's fat!
But we're here to talk about Sonic, so let's see where he appears. He's a part of the Video Game Bully group, which is basically all the characters from Smash. He doesn't really have any lines in this except for laughing and repeating what everyone else says.
Ooh, snap!
He's also involved in the fight at the end of the episode and loses. Robotnik is also in this, and yeah, he just looks weird. The design is kinda strange, but you can easily tell it's meant to be Sonic. I love how most of Sonic's designs usually resemble him well except for this one. I really want to know what happened here. Very, very strange variety for Sonic. But that about wraps it up for today's video on Sonic's cameos. If you enjoyed this video, thanks for watching. There's this button here that says subscribe on it. I often hear good things about that button. You might want to give it a click so you can get more content like this. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.